Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Idle Musings of the Nerd Mind podcast. I love that everybody's waving. It's like you're waving for me. It's very, I love it. You. I feel like I'm a Barbie girl in the Barbie world. Thank you, everybody. I know we're gonna get there. I mean, we got a new Barbie movie coming out. I'm just gonna be singing Aqua. If Aqua's not in that movie, I
forgot. Yeah.
Yo, Barbie Life in the Dream House was a tight show. I'm not gonna lie, that was great.
All 3 seasons, A+,
5 stars.
Thinking 5 stars. Yeah.
Somebody has children. Somebody has children.
No, sadly he does not. That's the.
Hey, I can be a brony. I can be a brony if I want to as well. Yeah. Don't shame me.
What?
You be a brony boy in a brony world. It's fine. That's what you do.
Oh my god.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you guys for all joining us today. Thank you for joining us here on the video cast. If you're tuned in to us via Facebook or Twitter or YouTube or now Spotify. So we are now got the video up on Spotify. I don't know. They just sent me an email and they're like, do you want your video on Spotify? And I said, yes, please. So we are now up on Spotify with both video and audio. And for those of you tuning in with the audio portion of it, thank you for subscribing over on Spotify to begin with. And we will be up with our audios on other ones coming soon. So thank you all for tuning in. And of course, thank you for my lovely guests. We have, we normally the 3-headed King Ghidorah of this podcast, including myself, one of your co-hosts, Matt. And of course, over on this other side of me.
Hey guys, it's Steph.
And then on the other side of me, I've got
Richard Williams.
Williams. And then, of course, we have 2 lovely special guests today. We are nerding out with our friends from the Cantina Cast. If you gentlemen would like to introduce yourselves. I had to figure out how to point that way. I didn't know how that worked.
You did it.
Barbie fans first. Go ahead, Jonesey, please.
I'm Jonesey, co-host of the Cantina Cast. We're all part of Idle Media Network. So nice to finally meet you guys in person and talk. We talked via email for so long, so it's really cool to be able to come on the show and talk about Star Wars and other things beyond Star Wars too. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I know. Wow, we don't get to do that very often.
Yeah, so Battlestar Galactica. Is that what you're trying to say?
Let's do it.
What?
BSG talk all night. Let's do it
all night.
Don't encourage him, people.
And I'm Albert Padilla, co-host of the Cantina Cast as well. And both Jonesy and I have roles as part of the network too. So you guys are now part of the Idle Media Network as the Cantina Cast and a number of other shows. So we've got we try to keep those folks in line as best we can. No guarantees though.
Yeah. You try to keep us in line, but guess who colors outside the line?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No one said we were very good at our job. So
yeah. Hey, well, thank you for allowing us to be on your lovely network, and thank you for supporting us in all that we do here at Idle Musings. And we are so excited to chat with you guys and have you guys on. We're going to be talking Star Wars, and if you guys want to go off topic, if you guys want to go off planet, please feel free to throw it out there, whatever you guys want to think. That's the brilliance of what this podcast is we are a stream of consciousness podcast about everything nerdy in the world, in the existence of things. So we're excited to have you on. So thank you for coming. We sincerely appreciate it.
Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
And as always, we like to start off by chatting about what nerdy things we've done in the last week. It's something you've been watching or reading or playing or whatever that might be. And I'm going to start with our lovely guest. So I'm actually going to go start with Albert over in this far corner. Albert, why don't you kick us off? What have you been doing this week?
Oh, let's see. I've got a full plate. I started watching season 4 of Stranger Things, and I've been doing one episode every night leading up until volume 2, which comes out this Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So pretty excited about that. I'm on the 2nd episode, 3rd episode tonight, 4th, etc. And then I'll probably binge whatever's left at that point. So That's been really great. I'm a huge Stranger Things fan, simply from the '80s culture references and then the storyline, right? But but yeah, that's been really cool. I've also been working on reading Shadow of the Sith again. That book just came out by Adam Christopher, Star Wars book. Highly recommend it. Everybody needs to go out and read this thing. If you felt kind of on the fence about like the Rise of Skywalker, the sequel trilogy, and you're looking for something that ties all trilogies together and including comics and including toys, I mean, this guy threaded the most crazy needle, and it really works. It's an amazing book. I love it to death. And then the other thing I'm working on is I've been working on trying to create these video shorts. So I created one on Leia that has a lot of footage and voiceover stuff from the Kenobi series. I'm working on my next one, which Jonesey doesn't even know about yet. I haven't told him about this. This is breaking news for Jonesey, but
exciting.
I'm working on one for Darth Vader. So it'll be some moments of Anakin Skywalker and Vader with some of the audio clips from the Kenobi series laid over that with some really cool music and all that. So
very cool.
Yeah,
we'll see if we get a takedown notice for that one too.
Yeah, it'll be a takedown notice within 24 hours. It always happens.
I was wondering. I was like, "Are you taking sound clips? They haven't knocked you for it? That's amazing." The force is with you. Yeah,
we are. What's our record now? We're like 10-0 on disputes,
something like that. Yeah. We had one recently on the EGM side for Cantina Cast. Like we didn't even file a complaint, but someone did on our behalf. To the network that we own, so I don't get that one, but
appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But we've won all of them.
It's very meta, if you will. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Albert. I look forward to watching those short videos and everything.
Cool, thank you.
So we'll take that up, and then of course we're going to go over to Jonesy over on the other side.
Yeah, similar to Albert, and the right side, Shadow of the Sith book from Adam Christopher, both that one and also listen to the audiobook. So I've only got a couple chapters left in the audiobook. And again, Adam Christopher, man, he did a bang up job. We're going to see what we can do about maybe getting in touch with him. Really awesome book. And like Albert said, if you're looking for something to it really ties in with the sequel trilogy really, really well. And it really kind of helps you get there a little bit, especially when you get towards Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker. So it's really cool. Other things I've been doing though, I'm like way behind on all of my streaming stuff. Like we're talking years behind. So I finally get caught up like on Titans. I'm trying to get caught up on The Boys. I'd never watched the Scream movies, but I made a commitment. I was going to watch I'm not a horror movie fan, but I had never seen them.
You just broke my heart.
I know, well, so I was
kick you from the podcast. I'm sorry.
Hold on. I'm rectifying things. So I watched.
Okay.
I've watched all 5 of the Scream movies, but what was really weird about it is that I accidentally watched the newest one first because it was just called Scream, and I didn't because I went on Paramount Plus, and Paramount Plus only had 4 and 5 on there, but they called it 4 and then just Scream. I was like, okay, and then within like 5 minutes, I'm like, damn it, I'm watching the last one. But it's always interesting. It's like watching Star Wars, right? When you watch the original trilogy and then you go back and do the prequels, it was almost like that, that kind of experience. So it was actually kind of cool to be a little bit lost, but then the pieces all come together, and then I'm like, well, shit, I got to go watch this again now because I'm trying to remember all these characters' names, but what actually happened over the course of a couple of weekends of watching this. But so those have been kind of my primary things lately the last couple of weeks.
Nice, very cool.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing, Jonesy, and good luck with that Scream franchise. So, it's not necessarily an easy one because it's such referential to other horror. So I'm really curious to hear your take on it. We might have to invite you back, and we'll do a Scream episode just to go over.
It hurts to watch those sometimes. I'm just saying.
I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised with a couple of them, though. So I kind of get the enthusiasm for Scream. To an extent, it's very tongue in cheek in some ways, but I'm super excited to talk more about those. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, all right. Well, thank you so much. We're going to kick it over to Stephanie.
So, I don't know if any of you guys are Westworld fans, but I watched the first episode of season 4. I'm fucking in. I don't know where they're going, but who cares?
Wait, what was it called?
Westworld.
Oh, okay. Season 4 of Westworld. Okay.
Yes. Love it. This weekend I saw The Black Phone, which was absolutely amazing. I definitely recommend it.
Terrifying. I've heard a lot of good things.
It was awesome. I give it like a 4.5 out of 5.
Oh my God. I can't wait.
I thought it was seamless. I'm usually not one to like kids in movies, but I think these fucking kids did amazing. They were stellar, and you guys need to see it, and then we could talk about it.
Okay.
And then I wanted to
That
do
works.
right. And then I wanted to do a quick shout out to was it called The Sorrow or The Sadness?
The sadness.
The sadness.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I know
Yikes.
some of you are comic book nerds, but have you guys ever read Crossed?
Mm-mm.
No.
Well, it's a fucking zombie comic book. It came out, oh my god, I guess at this point 12 years ago, maybe even longer.
Oopsie.
And so it's about zombies, and they're like fucked up, dude. Like they do some sick shit, and the movie reminded me of that. I mean, it gets graphic. So it could be definitely a hard watch if you are.
I'm scared.
Let's just say there was a chick missing an eye, and
no.
the zombie decided to alleviate
Oh, goodness.
some
What in the world?
some of this.
Wait, was it scarier than watching Masters of the Universe back in the 80s? I just need to know.
Much scarier.
Oh,
Much scarier.
because that terrified my childhood. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a classic. You watch
need
your
to
mouth there.
stop.
I know.
You
I
need
was
to stop.
I meant the movie, not the series. The movie.
I'm talking about the movie
Okay,
with Dolph
are you talking
Lundgren.
about the
and-
movie?
Yeah, with Dolph Lundgren.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, no, the series was sexually fantastic. I mean, it was just,
awakening, really.
it really was. I mean,
Very enlightening.
yeah, it was.
Oh my god! I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah.
You know, lots of young gay men were forced to watch He-Man,
Yep.
and it's our fault we're gay. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Loincloths,
Yeah.
swords, you know, Conan,
Say
all
no
of
more.
it.
Cropped blonde hair. I mean, what else is it?
I was gonna say, the page
Big-
boy cut.
Big
Page
furry
boy.
I'm just
booties.
saying.
Yeah.
Wow. We went there. We were like, thanks for listening to our Masters of the Universe podcast.
You said it can go in a bunch of different directions.
Oh,
I'm
we're
just
going.
testing the waters here.
You
Yeah.
did. Oh, yeah.
He's like a
When you get to
raptor. He's just
It-
testing the fences for breaks in the perimeter. They're like,
That's
what
right.
weaknesses?
Clever girl.
Yeah.
When you test the waters and you end up with the Pirates of Dark Water, that's when you've like
Oh
really
my
got
I love
god! You
that
did
show.
not just go there. That's my
Right
show.
there.
That's my cartoon.
It
Back
should
in the
be
day.
everybody's show. Thank you, Hannah.
Do you guys
Barbera.
realize it was only like one season and 12 episodes?
Yeah, but it's still good. They
No,
covered
it was
a
so
lot.
good. But
I think
thinking
Pirates had
back, it felt like it was forever.
Yeah, I think it's got
It's
two.
two seasons.
One of
Two
12
episodes?
and one of like 8 or something. It's like a
Yeah.
short second
Oh.
season, I think.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No,
Not
but
12
it
episodes,
felt
18.
like one season though, for sure.
It really does. Yeah.
One
Yeah.
long season. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh,
Never
come on.
I associate that with the video game. It was at the NES or Super Nintendo video game that came out at the time, which I hated.
What?
Yeah. You didn't know there's a Pirates of the Dark Water video game?
Yeah, I'm scared now. No,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You hated a terrible video game? I don't
I know.
believe it.
It's shocking. I
Yeah,
can't.
weird.
I don't know what to say about that.
I'm out of here. I'm done.
Yeah, you're done. He just removes himself from the podcast because of Pirates of the Dark
I'm
Water.
all like,
First time in
Wow.
podcast history, probably. Well, Richard, what have you been doing? What have you been doing this last week?
oh my goodness. Lots of meetings for work, and let's see what else. I went to Quarry. That's my new video game for PlayStation 4. What have y'all heard of it? Or okay, it's pick your own adventure type video game. You're nice to people. You
I'm out.
know, you're mean
You already
to
lost me.
people. Yeah. Okay. So no.
Wait, where are the
it's
sniper
not
stands?
Like that.
Yeah.
No, come on, man. You have
If I'm
like 10
not
seconds.
doing something to
You
the
got
cavity,
like 10 seconds.
If
to,
I'm not
like,
getting
fix
if I'm not getting teabagged by an 8-year-old on the other
Yeah.
end, I don't know what's going on.
yeah,
Are you really living?
exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm with Cantina Cast here, Richard. We had this argument the last time. I was like, who chooses peace in those games? Like, it's mentality. That's all it is.
This guy, I want to win. I want everyone to survive. And anyway, they're all like teenagers. So they're all about to get killed and shit. So it's just kind of like, I hate you. And it's like, oh, I'm running towards the door. And then they're like slamming the door because you hate them. Come on. This is a fun game. It's awesome. I can't wait to get it. I just ordered it. I'm ready. I'm ready.
I'm looking it up right now.
My body is ready for the Quarry.
You would be so much fun. Steph, did you check it out so we can play it?
Yeah, I will after this.
Of course I did. She's like frantically typing.
She's just trying to figure out how to close her browser right now. It's
It's like click. That's me. That's what I'm doing right now. Oh, and going back to school to get my second degree. So here we go.
Richard. Congratulations.
So here we go.
Here we go. So now you're gonna have school time stories and all those nightmares that go with it. So congratulations.
I can't wait because I'm gonna be like that non-traditional student. I can't wait. Because that's awesome.
You're like,
it's awesome. They're like, how old are you? I'm like, old enough to not tell you how old I am. Now go away. Get away from me.
Get off my lawn.
Grumpy.
It was get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Get a job,
grumpy.
I
was alive back when Luke Skywalker was cool.
Yeah.
We saw it when we were kids. I'm just saying, Albert. I'm just saying.
We need to drop that.
We were there.
We're going to be talking about Luke in here in a little bit because I got some quandaries with that.
Oh Lord, here we go.
I know,
Jiminy Christmas.
Me. I am devil's advocate on this podcast.
Oh, so. Jiminy Christmas. Let's do it.
Yes,
wait, Christmas. Matt, you cannot get away. What are you doing?
No, I'm not getting away with anything because I need to talk about this comic book, The Last Ronin.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I am a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. I am in fact just playing the new Shredder's Revenge on my Switch pretty much nonstop. Once you get 6 players all doing that, beating them up at one time, it's just
crazy
chaos on the screen. It's just insane. I'm all about it. But we found a new comic book store here in Denver, 5280 Comics, # not sponsored. But we found this new comic book store. They had all of the issues for The Last Ronin, which is the Turtles really, really dark sequel comic. Where there's only one turtle left. The other 3 are now dead.
Okay.
And it's about his revenge that he's going to get on Shredder's grandson. Very dark comic, very dark. And
the art is absolutely stellar, though, in that series. Some of the variant covers they've had have been amazing.
Oh, it's incredible. Awesome. There's so many variant covers. I was like, I kind of wish I looked for this one instead. Once I see them all, I'm like, I should have bought all.
Quite honestly, it's probably the best comic on IDW that IDW publishes right now. It's crazy.
Very cool, Jonesey. I didn't know you were a comic fan. That's so awesome.
Yeah. I like pictures.
I like.
He does.
I hope you like words too. Take
it or leave it, but yeah.
Words.
Yeah, I'm more about efficiency. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. So like, it's more efficient.
I make my own story up as I watch the pictures.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh my god! I love it.
And then the last thing I want to bring up is that I finally finished my Sam Raimi marathon. I have now watched all 15 of his films, one essentially per week for the last 15 weeks, catching up. I've seen them all before, but I ended with my least favorite one, which is Oz, the Great and Powerful, which still does not stand the test of time. So you're welcome, everybody. That movie is very awkward. I will say that it may be the worst thing James Franco has done, except for everything he does in real life. So, he's so bad at it. He's so bad at it. He is so miscast. So, nonetheless, I'm going to wrap up my segment on this, and we're going to be chatting a little bit of, I'm sure you guys probably already know this, Star Wars.
What?
I don't know if you guys heard of this. You guys heard of this? We're going to be talking about...
You mean Star Trek?
What?
Same difference, right?
Yeah, same difference. I don't know. Yeah, it's all
we
that
love them
space
both.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a Star Trek fan over on this side of me, a Star Wars fan over on this side of me, and I'm an Ice Pirates fan. So that's what we're going to go with there. So.
Wow.
I think you're a Time Bandit fan.
Time Bandits? Yeah, I'm also,
Yeah, I think you're a Time Bandits fan.
I am a Time Bandits fan. We just finished up the first season, maybe last season, of Obi-Wan Kenobi has just wrapped up on Disney Plus.
Say that.
And we'll see how much money Ewan McGregor makes off of this, right? And then we just wrapped it up. So we wanted to have a discussion with you guys as the Cantina Cast, as the resident experts on Star Wars, about your thoughts on Obi-Wan Kenobi as a whole, and of course, maybe your favorite parts, least favorite parts. Why don't we just shoot it off to you guys? What are your thoughts?
Pass.
Not it.
Can I phone a friend?
I'd like to phone a friend, please. I'd like to use my 50-50. Jonesy, why don't you start, and I'll fill in blanks.
You'll fill in the next 20 minutes.
We talked about Albert a little bit. Come on.
Yeah, and what's odd is tomorrow night we're recording our own show to talk about the entire series, which will probably go on for 3 or 4 hours. So we're going to try to do we're going to try to narrow that down to just 2 hours tonight. So
this is their abridged version.
Bridge.
Yes. We need Spark Notes, right, Steph? We need Spark Notes on Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I like the series overall, actually, and I was nervous about a young Leia. I was nervous about a young Luke too, but with Leia being so front and center, and man, she just Vivian Blair just knocks it out of the park for the most part. I think some scenes are really difficult for kids to act when they're trying to be upset or something, but man, the scenes that needed emotion and needed energy in particular, and when she took control, man, she was a presence on the screen, and it was really, really well done. I mean, Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor getting together, their scene was fantastic. Ewan McGregor just acted his ass off in this whole series and did so well. There were some surprising characters that we really enjoyed, like Tala, and really unfortunate that she went ahead and bit the bullet on that one. But but man, I mean, the fight scenes I think delivered everything that we were hoping to. The limited dialogue during those was really powerful as well, to where I think it really helped and it really enhanced what we know to come in A New Hope, and really kind of a lot of little, other little Easter eggs here and there as we went through. But man, really, I had a couple of nitpicks about it too. But from the kind of overall feeling, though, it's a show. I think I said this a week or so ago. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I don't rewatch a lot of stuff. I don't like to reread things. I don't like to rewatch. Even Star Wars, it's pretty limited, even though I do a lot of research for the show. For pleasure, I don't do it very often. This is a series I think I will honestly rewatch numerous times regularly. Same. And it's just, for me, it's just that interesting. And there's always more to find out. With how dark some of the scenes were and the way the volume works, I think there were some criticisms in there that we've shared on the show, but I think there's probably more to explore in some of that too, of how's the technology, is it helping or is it hurting the shows in some ways? And it's probably a bit of both. But overall though, really, really liked the series. I really loved it, and I was really nervous about this one because these are characters that we know really, really well. And with stories and their behaviors that we know really, really well. And I think they really did it justice. I think it really does bridge that, especially that prequels to mid-range of original trilogy, characters really, really well. I'll kind of pause there for Albert. He's thinking he's going to. Here's the ways that Jonesy.
See him. He's like deep in thought.
He's been taking notes. He's got his pen out.
I know that look.
So
go ahead, say it.
Well, no, okay. So did I enjoy this series? I overall absolutely enjoyed the series. I think what it does, it's like the question going into this. First off, we had this long history of Obi-Wan Kenobi ever since the movie was rumored to come out. That kind of went through a couple of different stages, eventually kind of morphed into this television series. And did it deliver on what it promised? I think so, for the most part. I think it's very hard to argue that it didn't deliver on on all levels. However, that said, the big question was whether or not did we need this series, right? That's what people have been struggling with, is did we need to see the story? What did it actually do? And I think it actually does a couple of things that people aren't immediately seeing. I think over time and maybe through the course of listening to podcasts and watching shows and maybe rewatching the series, I think these things will kind of surface there to the top there. But for one, it does recontextualize a lot of what we know in Episode 4 and even Rogue One to some extent, especially also in Return of the Jedi. Right, that whole hallway scene with Luke and Darth Vader about, Obi-Wan once thought as you did. It really kind of puts a new light for that scene and some of the scenes in New Hope. So on that level, I think it did a really good job as well. The other thing it does is, I think what people are missing is that this is an origin story, not just for Kenobi, if you think about it, right? His character takes a divergent path at the end of this series. He becomes the Obi-Wan Kenobi we know at the very end, or the beginning of episode 4. But then if you think about it, so does Reva's character. She goes through a character change. Leia, the Leia that we know as that rebellious Leia, has her birth in this. Not literally, right? But her birth in the very end. She's going through a small character arc that if you really pay attention, she's almost kind of step for step going through some of the things that Obi-Wan Kenobi is. And then the other one that kind of stands out is just, Vader himself, right? At the very end of this series, we get the Vader that we see in episode 4. He's now no longer obsessed with Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's kind of been put in his place. And so from that perspective, I think it does a really good job of kind of kicking off the 4 different paths. I didn't say Reva also. Reva's the other one. And the cool thing about Reva, sorry, just to go on that, we're going to do a character dissection on Reva here very shortly in a couple days, actually. But the one thing about Reva that I really liked is if you look at her storyline, it actually parallels Darth Vader's in a lot of ways. Like almost beat for beat, there are things that are happening. Granted, she's not the chosen one, right? But her path and her character arc are very similar, and I think that was done intentionally. So I know there's been a lot of controversy about her character. Was she needed? Was she necessary? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think the writing's on the wall. They'll probably do something with this character, whether it's a TV show or a comic book or a book of some sort. But the fact that we got her where she's at, and we went into this too. I think we had heard that they had already done some reshoots to kind of redo her ending because they wanted to keep the character around. It turned out to be the case because I think all of the leaks that we were following were saying that she was going to die at the very end. So it looks like they did keep her around, and I think that bodes well for a series there for her at some point. So very interesting.
I like what you said about Leia there, Albert, because I think when you talk about does it recontextualize Kenobi and Vader in A New Hope, I think for Leia it does too. All of a sudden you've got this much bigger world for Leia of what she is doing in the background over the next 10 years, next 9 years.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more there. And if you're not familiar with the books or some of the comic books or things like that, you miss a lot of what Leia's been doing and how important Leia was to the rebellion and what the relationship was with her father, with Bail. And being able to see some of that on screen, and her and Jimmy Smits were just, they just had chemistry there too, right? And but knowing what they had throughout those years and kind of in the background, now your mind just kind of wonders about, okay, well, all the things that she was doing and what were the things that she was thinking about. And, so I really like that we get a bit of a different spin on Leia. It makes sense that they would focus on the female character as well, because Luke has had so much attention over the years. Everything is Luke, Luke, Luke. And now that we were able to kind of focus on Leia a bit more here, I think that was a really good thing, but also it just opens up people's minds who haven't seen the other material or been a part of the other material and what has she been doing and just how important is she as you get into the original trilogy.
But unless you saw Rebels, if you saw Rebels, you saw her. Yeah,
you get some, but again, that's like right up against kind of the the original trilogy, so there's still a path. But you're absolutely right, though. She was still young, and it feeds into that really well. Yeah,
it really does. And when you look at everything that happened here, and then you look at Rebels, she's on a path.
Oh, absolutely.
And she's doing some amazing things, and I don't know. Yeah.
So there's three things that come out of Leia for this, right? So number one is it's her identity. Who is she? She doesn't feel like she's an Organa. She feels like she's an outsider. She's been adopted. She knows those aren't her real parents. And so she's struggling with that. And by the end of that, she comes around and accepts who she is, right? I am an Organa. That's the first layer. The second layer is, what does she want to do with her life? I know she's very young, but she wants nothing to do with being a senator, right? It's stuffy. You stand in rooms and do really boring things, et cetera, et cetera. But by the end of it, she's like, I'm going to do this. Like, I want to do this now. There's a cause here that I believe in, and that is this budding rebellion, right? But in true Leia form, she says, I'm going to do this on my own terms. We're going to change some things. I want to do this differently. To which Bail says, okay, yeah, let's do it differently together, right?
He encourages it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love that.
Right. He's allowing her to be herself in that regard. And then the third thing it does is it teaches her a lesson about you can't just blindly go trusting people. If you look at Leia at the very beginning of where she's at, she's constantly going, why don't we just ask this person? Why don't we take a ride with them, et cetera? And Kenobi's trying to tell her, look, not everybody's okay. Not everybody's good. You can't just go around blindly trusting everyone, right? And that becomes a key critical component for her as the leader, eventual leader of this rebellion in a lot of different ways, and being able to know who to trust, who to negotiate with, right? There's a lot of life lessons that come from this. Again, her story, her character arc is so subtext, and it's so buried that you really kind of have to pull at it, but it's actually there if you really think about it.
Albert, I wanted to say, but Obi-Wan learns the opposite lesson.
Absolutely.
Where to trust people, where he didn't trust people. And she was a part of that. Yeah. And I think they both learned a lesson. She's like, okay, I need to be a little bit more careful. And he's like, I don't need to be as guarded. And I love how they took the time with Obi-Wan. And people were angry. They're just like, I want my Obi-Wan. It's like, why don't you shut up and just let them tell the goddamn story?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, let them tell the story. And I thought it was beautiful. Went to some of the other Star Wars gay rooms, and I'm like, all right, drag queen, shut it. You know, it was a bit much. But you know what? It just shows that people are super passionate.
I like that perspective, Richard, because without all of that buildup for Obi-Wan in part 6, where he's trapped under the rocks and he's starting to be overwhelmed again by all the memories and all of the guilt and all of the negativity and cynicism, it was all of those other moments that he experienced with Leia in particular that really brought that hope and brought that light back to him, to where there is something that he can believe in, and that the future is bright, and he doesn't, he can finally kind of let go of some of the things in the past. And so I think you're right. Without all of that, that moment doesn't have near as much power, and it doesn't work near as well unless you have everything before it. Yeah. I mean, it's the journey for a reason, right? You got to go through all the pain. And as viewers, as you know, we're a lot of folks these days want instant gratification. And so if you don't get to binge it, like Matt was saying earlier, if you're used to binging things, right?
Certain things.
Yeah. I mean, you're used to just churning right through the material, right? And you get all of that at once. But whenever you have this week over week thing, which I kind of like because it gives you time to digest it and talk about it, but you get impatient with it. Yeah. So if you're used to watching Netflix, you get everything at once, and you come to Disney Plus, I could see where it could be frustrating, but
Matt, I want to ask you something too. Not, this isn't my show, but I'm going to ask you something anyways. So one of the things that so the criticisms, right? It's not all stars and rainbows. I mean, I've got some of the same feedback. I felt the use of the volume was kind of weak at times. You could tell they were on a set, especially in the darker. And this is not abnormal. We saw this a little bit in the Mandalorian. We saw that in Book of Boba Fett as well. So it doesn't necessarily take me out of it. But Jonesy and I have been talking about criticizing the depth that you don't get by using a stage that just goes only so far, right? That certainly was exposed here. The use of the music I felt was kind of underwhelming. At the very end, in part 6, they finally brought back in some of those familiar tunes. So I think they kind of, redeemed themselves a little bit. But what I wanted to ask you about was, the more I've watched this, I don't know that this was really the best candidate for a 6-part broken up week after week. Here's what I think. So a lot of the criticism, like what Jonesy was saying is right. We kept hearing it every single day or every week. We would hear, this sucked. We're not getting this. We're not getting that. Why are they showing this? Why are they showing that? That sort of thing. I wonder if it would have been better to have done a movie, right? I know now they're saying it was going to be a trilogy, which I'm like, good Lord, what were we going to tell in 3 movies? But it could have been the same thing. But I wonder if they had just broadcast this as one, like released all 6 episodes or cut it so that they kind of all flowed, you know what I mean? Like flowed a little bit better. If that would have made a difference for people who felt like, hey, this doesn't really feel right, and there's too much, I'm going to call it filler here, or do we really need to get that piece in there and that sort of thing? But what did you think? Is that kind of where you're at?
That's absolutely where I was at. The whole time, there was 2 questions that kept running through my head. And you guys kind of mentioned the first one, which is, why should I care about this? I know where this ends, right? I know where this ends. Why should I care, right? So that question, like, that's, anytime you have a prequel, that's the question I always ask myself, right? But the second one is that as I was watching it, particularly because if you look at the time lengths of the episodes, when you take out the intro and the recap, and then
About
the
12
credits.
minutes shorter than what you got.
It's 12 minutes shorter,
Yeah.
and most of these episodes were like 38, 40 minutes. So you're looking at 6 episodes at about 30 minutes. That's just a 3-hour movie. You trim it a little bit, you restructure it. It could have easily been a movie. And I think the quality, like Deborah Chow as a director, I feel like had a really smart visual style at times.
Yeah.
Yes, you lose some of that depth with the sets. I'm a huge sets fan, though. I love a good set. And I'm willing to forgive a lot of those things for a really good solid set. And I think that she had a real knack for a good visual, particularly in the fight in the action sequences, and even in some of those more tense moments. And I kept thinking to myself, I was like, I would like this way better as a movie. Make it a 2-hour, 40-minute movie, and I, trim it down a little bit. And I think you've got yourself almost a better product, a more efficient product, and things like that. So that's what I kept asking myself the whole time. Is I was like, why is this a series outside of Disney wanting to get that week by week so that suddenly you're paying for 2 months, in between the next 2 shows as they go back to back with shows. It just that was the big question for me. And I know for me, that was a big struggle I had with the pacing with it, because things did feel like they should be filler, and then they would come back and be like, no, that's important. And I was like, whoa, like, was that important? It felt like you were just throwing it out there, just to have something in there. And then it was like, oh no, this is really important. It's especially with like Reva and stuff like that. Although Steph was like, when she like kind of turns and was like, I'm hunting down Darth Vader this whole time. I kind of didn't see that coming, which dibs to them.
I loved.
She's like, how did you not see that coming? That was so obvious. I saw it in minute 1, and I was like, are you kidding me? So yeah, I was like,
good call.
I also have a different perspective though, because I'm kind of a Star Wars virgin. So
tell us what you feel.
This is
I want to hear it.
First real introduction to Star Wars.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a very cool. No,
I love that. It's
very rare. Yeah, it's
very unique perspective.
I want to hear it.
Go on.
I want to hear it. Seriously.
I mean, I definitely agree with you guys. When you guys say that it's hard, it was hard for me to get my buy-in. Like, I know all these characters are gonna live, so why do I care about this fight? My favorite character was the fucking repair robot, if I'm being honest.
Oh,
Loader robot for the win.
All right.
Mine too. Oh,
I loved him.
Me too.
Ned 7. Is it 7?
Yeah.
Ned B.
Ned B. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I thought the whole scene in the beginning of them going into the secret tunnel, I felt like that was a little wishy-washy, because how did Reva get on the other side of the tunnel to kill the pilot when they were still in the tunnel? And and how did Obi get on the other side? I don't know. That kind of bothered me a lot.
Okay. All right.
And I mean, I loved Leia, girl power. So of course that hit me in the heart. I totally love it. But yeah, I mean, it was okay.
Okay. Say more.
I guess
Say
it is
more.
one of those things that like the Disney,
Say more.
almost the Disney problem right now is that buy-in. Like you've had this scene so much.
I felt like how I felt when I watched the latest Spider-Man. Like, it was a lot of fan service for me. And if you're not already a fan, and if you don't already know the stories, if you're not already invested in these characters, what is it for people like me? What makes me want to invest in them?
I think that's a great point, Steph, because I think if you were to watch, that's why The Mandalorian was so great as an introduction for non-Star Wars fans or people who just were very, very casual, because it didn't, if you were a Star Wars fan, there was a lot of depth in there and a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of that fan service too. But if you were a first-time watcher and you didn't have all of it, you would still be able to follow it just fine and feel like you were picked up from day one. And so it's really hard to do that well with these characters, because you're trying to balance that out with these really old school fans, and even prequel fans are becoming more old school these days, right? And trying to balance those expectations, but also try to make sure that everyone feels like they can step into it and understand it. It's a really difficult balance to do. And I think that's interesting. I like hearing that type of perspective because I can see why that would be difficult to really get on board with and see how it is. But so I'd be really curious if you went and watched Mandalorian, like season 1 of Mandalorian, how you might view that series, if that would give you a different spin on
Y'all saw
Star Wars, knowing you've got
I'll watch it if you guys come back on the podcast.
Oh my god!
Well, they're here every week, so
Yeah.
oh, you mean not? Okay, yeah. No, we'd love to.
You'll have to go to the other room and take it up with that gentleman right there. So.
Yeah. What's funny is I wouldn't call myself the biggest Star Wars fan, but I have seen pretty much everything at this point, except for Rebels is the one thing that I've weirdly missed.
Rebels!
So, like, for whatever reason, I missed out on Rebels. But
I'm laughing because there was a meme that we shared today where it shows the Inquisitors in that very opening scene where he goes, "Do you know who we are?" And the guy that runs that little bar says, "You're Inquisitors." And then he responds back, "Do you know what we do?" And they cut back over to the guy and he says, "No, sorry, I didn't watch Rebels."
yeah.
So
And that was my thing. I was like, I don't know who these people are. And they were like Inquisitors, and they were like, we're Jedi hunters. And I was like, okay, well, at least he explained it. So I was like,
right,
all right.
yeah.
No,
I recognize the look of the guy, but I was like,
well, that's why we dedicated a whole show called Jedi Hunters and Inquisitorius just to bring people up to speed. Because as much as beloved as Rebels is, it wasn't as popular until it really got going, you know. And even that first season was
loved it.
No, and there's a lot of people like that, and I ended up loving it too. But it was slow for me at the start because I was like, "What's the buy-in for me?" You know, and that type of thing. But
I agree. I loved it.
Yeah, it makes for an interesting talk. So, and kind of speaking of which, because we're actually kind of already heading into the last portion of our show, but I wanted to know, what if you guys want a season 2 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and what do you want in it? That's the question I'm going to pose to everybody.
Give it to us.
Want it?
Why don't we start with Stephanie then? Because she's the one that's kind of like she's the newest one. So this is the interesting perspective of whether or not it had enough there. You're like, I want more of that, or I'm good.
To be honest, I don't want any more of that. You know, I don't know. It's just there's no payoff for me. I know everybody's gonna live. Even the uncle, he's gonna live because he gets burned later. I mean, I don't know. I'll give Mandalorian a shot though, guys.
What?
We'll do
Season 3? Season 3, right? Oh my goodness.
I don't know. Obi's cool. He was obviously, a cool character. But like, I don't know. I guess I also am not interested in like people who are undefeatable.
That's interesting.
He's totally undefeatable. Nobody, even when he dies against Vader, it's because he did it himself. He put his lightsaber down. So I mean,
you need to read the High Republic. Plenty of defeatable Jedi in that series.
Yeah, don't get attached to anybody.
Yeah, they all die.
Game of Thrones of Jedi.
Yeah, Game of Thrones of Jedi is pretty much it.
All right, I like that. But guys, maybe you could tell me, when does Obi-Wan and Black Chrysanthemum meet? There is a comic book where they meet. Do you know which one that is?
Yeah, it's in the Star Wars flagship comic. Is where they first meet. And then Vader, so he's introduced in Vader. I think the 2017 series, with the one with Dr. Aphra.
So wasn't it after, like, not too long after, like, the show they met? I can be wrong, but I mean,
I don't exact time. I think the timeline was probably a little bit later, isn't it, Albert?
Yeah, it is. It's not around this time era.
No, it's another 5 plus years later because Obi-Wan looks a little closer to what he looks like in
more like
Under Hope.
Okay, all right. I've not got that comic book. I want to get it though. I saw it in some commentators. I want to get it. I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. So
that one spiked in value real quick when Chrysanthemum came out.
Oh, hello. Yeah, totally. When he showed up in Book of Boba Fett, totally. A big black Wookiee? Come on.
I have a question for you guys, since you guys are so diehard. You guys are more interested with everybody's backstory more than world expansion and introducing new characters?
Both.
I think I would say it's probably I mean, we dedicate shows just to the backgrounds and the character arcs and the story arcs themselves. But the expansion is what gets us here, right? You look at the legend stuff, you look at all the stuff that's come prior to. They're
Right.
really leveraging a lot of that world building that's already been done, either in Legends or in canonically, to kind of tell these stories, which is kind of cool. You can't have one without the other, if you will. So I'm in both really all day long. I mean, I have Wikipedia, like that's my start
Same.
page on my browser, right?
So well, and then so I
Awesome.
guess it almost begs the question. So why do you guys think that Disney's so obsessed with not expanding the universe?
Well, it's kind of where you're consuming your media. So they are expanding the universe quite a bit, but it's the High Republic is kind of that space, right? But it's been limited to just books and comic books, and that's something we're hoping will change, because Albert and I are huge fans of what they're doing in the High Republic. They have really good characters. They have really good villains so far. They've had a couple of misses in there, but they've got really good storytellers. I mean, really good storytellers and writers, and we've been able to speak with some of the writers as well, some of the authors, and they've got fantastic ideas, and they have a plan. They have a plan,
Right?
Which is what which is probably the single biggest criticism you can put on Star Wars and Lucasfilm, is that the sequel trilogy didn't feel like it had a really concrete plan. And I think Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, has come out and actually said those types of things lately, that this is why the High Republic is working, and there's these people love it. And so I think, Steph, when I think about your question, it's more of we really want that, because we're kind of tapped out on the stuff we know too. There's only so many things you can keep pulling out of the well to keep going back to. But let's be honest, that's where the money is at too, right? And so
Fair point.
there's got to be a balance in there. And so I think we're still waiting for material like The Acolyte, because we want to see what that one's actually all about. Andor, I think, is another great one, kind of like Rogue One. It definitely feeds into something, but there's a story there, and there's something interesting about that story that will give us a completely different perspective, even though it fits within the timeline. And I think that's where Mandalorian, until we kind of get the Boba Fett stuff, but I think that's why Mandalorian was so successful, is that it feels comfortable enough, and you still get this Western kind of vibe, but it is a completely unique kind of story on its own that you feel in it, but you don't have to know everything else that goes around it and get into all the details. Because I mean, we want new stuff, right? But it seems like we're going into the past rather than the future. Because if we're honest, talking about comics, Richard, if you remember the Legacy series that came out with Dark Horse, everything was in the far future with Cade Skywalker, the descendants of everyone.
Luke's
and it was a
daughter,
his grandson or great grandson or something like that. But it was kind of a flop. Yeah, it was kind of a flop though, right? And so I don't see them.
Like it.
I don't see them going into the future, and everything seems like the future seems to be in the past for right now. And I mean, Howard's a huge Old Republic fan, so anything Old Republic, High Republic it's really rich territory with all the things you can pull from the non-canon material, the Legends material, but then put a new spin on it. They have great characters already, so you can bring things but you can tell new stories with it.
Well, I'll just say this much. When I was in Austin full time, I would go to Austin Books and Comics. And anytime I had a question, somebody knew something. And they're like, let's go over here. So, no, it was too much for me. I would just say, okay, awesome, and look at it and go, I want to see something else. I wanted to see, oh God, who's the blue guy? I know his name.
Max Rebo?
Rebels.
Max
Rebo. He was in Rebels. Yes, Thrawn. Oh, I feel like such a dum-dum right now. But anyway, he interests me. He was so intelligent. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's still stuff coming. I mean, we've got, so the Ahsoka series is coming out, right? That's kind of in that Mandalorian era.
I got a whole stack of Thrawn books right here.
Yeah, they've got the Thrawn books, which are kind of prequels.
They're all canon.
Thrawn, and they're all legit canon stuff as
I'm excited.
You've got the Taika Waititi movie that's been, in the works. We don't know where that's going yet.
Is it happening?
It is happening. I mean, he's just recently came out and said it's still down. It's still happening. I think they've got a 2-year lead time on that one right now. It looks like that's going to be the next movie that comes out. That,
Okay.
there were rumors that he was going to go back in the past. It's likely it could be something in the future as well. I think what he's doing is saying what we're saying here is that let's get out of this territory, right? There are some
Right.
confinements. There's some natural barriers that they cannot hit. And going really far into the future or really far into the past is probably the best
Right.
idea. The trick is, this is where this is where they're trying to land it, is you can't alienate the people, right? It still has to feel like Star Wars. It has to still have the same the themes. It has
Right.
to have the same lightsabers and ships, and
Right.
you got to be able to relate to it, right? They can't go too far or too far back or too far forward that it doesn't feel like Star Wars and feels like Star Trek, or it's too primitive in some way, right? They don't want to lose
Yeah.
that base. So that's where I think where it becomes a little bit challenging. But I think they're making some pretty good headway in the High Republic stuff. If you're looking for people that are certainly fallible, I mean, that's the whole point of the High Republic is they make
Right.
mistakes all the
I,
time.
I do want to say, because we're running out of time, I want to discuss two things real quick. Lightsabers and Starkiller, what we talked about, Albert.
Yeah.
And we have to hear about Star Wars Celebration. So, Starkiller, get it done real quick. How do you feel about it? Jonesy, how do you... I'm not sure if you know about it, but we need to hear about Star Wars Celebration and your panel also.
Oh yeah. So quickly, the Starkiller thing. In the scene in Obi-Wan where you see the box of lightsabers, looks like a box of cigars. There's a lightsaber in there that looks very similar to Galen Starkiller's lightsaber from Force Unleashed, and so that got a lot of people talking about: is it canon? Is it not? They've not officially said that that's the lightsaber. I personally think, if anything, it is just an homage, right? It's a nod to that series. They did it with a lot of other stuff in the series as well.
All right.
I would be very surprised, given where we are now and what they've done with the Vader comic, to reintroduce Galen Starkiller. I think would be kind of a hot mess to work that into the story at this point. But, I don't know, Jonesy, you're nodding. Agree?
Yeah.
Disagree?
No, I agree with that, and I think it goes back to, like, I don't want more Obi-Wan either. To kind of answer the other question, like, I don't need more Obi-Wan Kenobi for this type of series.
I'm with you.
Because it's already pretty packed. It's pretty dense in this area. And I think anytime you start in Clone Wars, fantastic series, again, very dense with material. So going back and picking any particular timeline and or moment in that becomes difficult, because you're retreading and then you're kind of rewriting things. You start flirting with it, and the fandom could be a bit of a dumpster fire sometimes. So, I don't think it's necessary to do Starkiller. It was a great video game, but it lives in the video game.
Yeah, and I don't want another series either for Kenobi. Just for the record. If we're taking votes.
We're taking votes. So we got 3 no's. I'm going to go with a 4 no. I'm pretty good with it. I want more Mandalorian, and I don't want any more Skywalker stuff. Get rid of the Skywalker Mandalorian.
No, I agree.
Just give me Mandalorian.
Okay, Star Wars Celebration.
I'm still there, as you can tell on the video feed. I'm still here at Celebration. I've not left.
It is perpetual daylight in California, apparently.
Yeah. No, that was wonderful. We had this was our second time on stage, on the podcast stage at Star Wars Celebration, so we're pretty proud of that. But this time we were fortunate enough to be there with another podcast that we're friends with called Tarkin's Top Shelf. A long time ago, a galaxy far, far away. We all used to be part of the same podcast network, and so we just kept a relationship with them after that kind of dissolved. But that's Becca and Mark, who are good friends of ours. But we were fortunate to do a show there live, and we had Claudia Gray, who is one of the High Republic writers, but she's also a writer that was doing High Republic or Star Wars before the High Republic. So she wrote Lost Stars. She did Master and Apprentice. If you've read that book, it's the kind of like the origin story for Kenobi and I'm sorry, not Kenobi. Wow, Qui-Gon Jinn and Dooku before he leaves the Order.
Wow! Oh my God!
Yeah, there's really good stuff. Really,
a couple of Bloodline, a couple of Leia books in there. Yeah,
Bloodline, Leia books, right?
Nice.
So she was on stage with us, and so we talked about the High Republic. We actually talked about similar what we were just talking about. We talked about the faults of the Jedi. In fact, it was called Fallen Stars, right? The Jedi of the High Republic, and because that story is really telling us it's leading up to the Jedi Order that we see in the prequel trilogy. When we start the High Republic, everything's glorious, everything's wonderful. They're at peace. They've been at peace for a very long time, and they're suddenly caught on their heels, and they start making really bad mistakes. They're also in tune with their feelings, which we know that to be a big no-no now in the prequel trilogy. And I think what they are kind of subtexting here is, how did we get there? How did they get to the point where Mace Windu and everyone is so against Anakin Skywalker having attachments when we see them having attachments in this era? And I think we're going to get that story of this is why this is bad. So it was really kind of talking about the Jedi and some of the mistakes that they made, and so far in the first phase that the books or first two phases that's been released.
And what's interesting about Claudia Gray, she's actually a huge Star Trek fan.
Yeah, she is. We talked more about Star Trek than we did Star Wars before we actually went on. So.
Oh my goodness!
Well, but the fun part about Celebration though is just getting together with people you don't normally get to see. I mean, we got to do a meetup while we were out there that we hosted. They do a big podcast meetup as well. I mean, the seeing the people bumping into author, like we bumped into Adam Christopher a handful of times. There was an emergency. The alarms went off while we were in the High Republic panel, in the publishing panel, and Albert saw Kevin Scott, who's one of the authors, again behind us, and he's like, "Hey, slow down," as we were evacuating the facility so that he could go talk to Kevin Scott on the way out. I mean, those are the things you don't get those memories anywhere else, right? Or a parade of like undead Ewoks and stuff. It's just really.
Oh my god, are you kidding?
No, I got a picture of one of them.
Oh my god, I love it.
Blood and everything.
Anyway, I love my time at San Diego Comic-Con. Yes, I did.
That's one I haven't been to yet.
Hey, Nightwing. I was Nightwing, baby.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Anyway, that's another story.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us tonight. We're going to be wrapping up here. Any last things you guys would like to promote? Like, where can people find the Cantina Cast?
You can find the Cantina Cast on all your major podcatchers. We're also cantinacast.com. We do post our events on cantinacast.com/events. You could see when our next live streams are at. We do them twice a week, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays on YouTube, Facebook, all the good stuff. So invite everyone to come check us out over there. We also have a Discord server. And you guys actually have a channel there, even though you're not there. But we have a Discord channel or a server with Earglue Media, eargluemedia.com/Discord. And you can come check out all the wonderful podcasts we have on the network over at eargluemedia.com, which includes, of course, Idle Musings.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you again for joining us tonight. Thank you to everybody who's tuning in over on the video cast, who are tuning in to the audio cast. Whether you're watching or listening, please, thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you for everybody at Earglue Media who has been so supportive of us. Again, we cannot thank you enough. As a network.
Thank you so much.
Also throwing out a thank you to Eric Fossum with Fossum Studios for all of our graphics and videos, and then all of our supporters and backers as we've kind of moved forward. And then, of course, I'd like to always thank out to everybody who works over at Disney and at Star Wars for working so hard to bring so many nerdy things to us day in and day out. I mean, the amount of material that you guys have just referenced, I've been writing a lot of it down because I need to go reference it. So I'm a research nerd. What can I say? So thank you so much for all of that. And of course, gentlemen, with that, we bid you a good night as we do set this nerd mind to idle. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great evening. We will see you next episode. Talk to you soon.